Fear Not, Episode 7. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today, you and I are going to be joined by Dr. José M. Zuniga. Welcome, Dr. Zuniga. Are you ready to fear not today?
I am. Thanks.
Dr. José M. Zuniga was appointed president of the International Association of Providers of AIDS Care in December of 1999. Prior to joining IAPAC, Dr. Zuniga was Director of Policy and Communications at the AIDS Action Council in Washington, D.C., following his military service in the U.S. Army, including combat duty in the Persian Gulf during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm that earned him a combat medical badge. He lectures at several academic institutions, has been published in various journals, authored thematic chapters for 4 books, and edited 3 books: The HIV Pandemic, Local and Global Implications, Decade of Heart, The Development of Global Impact on Highly Active Antiretroviral Therapy, and Advancing the Human Right to Health. He is editor of the bi-monthly Medline Index Journal of the International Association of Providers of AIDS Care, a technical consultant for the Collaborative Institute of Virology, and a member of the Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS Scientific and Technical Advisory Committee. Dr. Zuniga routinely advises United Nations health agencies, including the World Health Organization and its regional offices, as well as bilateral institutions such as the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. Dr. Zuniga, could you take a few minutes and just sort of fill in the gaps and give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So beyond my professional duties, which are really focused around ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030, I'm married and the father of one very precocious 13-year-old.
Well, great. Thank you for that glimpse. Can you tell us, Dr. Zuniga, what has been one of the biggest fears that you've had to face?
I think one of the greatest fears that I ever encountered was very early in my time at IAPAC, when we were working in the country of Romania, specifically in a small town of Constanza, which had been decimated, at least its pediatric population had been decimated by unsafe medical practices within the Romanian healthcare system, specifically blood transfusions using tainted syringes. And I recall meeting a young child who, I would have wrapped up and brought with me back to the States, who was living with HIV and progressing very quickly to AIDS, largely due to the fact they didn't have the infrastructure or the drugs available to save his life. I went back to Romania several months later as our project there was concluding, and he had passed. And for me, that moment created a sense of fear that no matter how much we want to intervene, how much we in fact do intervene, that we could never save every life from a disease that is both preventable and completely treatable in a chronic condition. That fear was paralyzing for some time because, in my role here, it is about making sure that we lean forward, that there's forward momentum in our mission. And at that time, the fear of failure, the fear of not being able to move fast enough, was paralyzing.
So what did you do?
Well, I sought counsel. I'm surrounded by incredible people, including my family, my mentors, my friends, and I found a solution to this fear was to embrace it, because fear is not altogether an unhealthy um, thing to have or to feel. To embrace fear as a mechanism to prompt action, but also to recognize that in this instance, to save one life is really to save the world because every life has infinite value. And although I still strive to, in all of our work and in all of our endeavors, to have the maximum impact we can, there's a sad realization that some people are left behind, do slip through the cracks, and there's not much that we can do to avoid that unfortunate circumstance of life. And so it was really about embracing fear as a trigger for or a facilitator for greater action, and then the acceptance that we can only do so much.
And do you have a daily practice or habit that you use, Dr. Zuniga, that helps you to stay out of fear or at least from what I'm hearing from you, sort of to face it and embrace it and use it to your advantage?
One of the ways in which I tackle what can be paralyzing for anyone who not just in the HIV space or in the medical space, but anyone who is in a position of authority to move agendas forward is a daily reminder of the value of what we're attempting to do, and placing it within the context of the fear that we know can paralyze us into inaction. Um, that I think is something I do on an almost daily basis, because we're confronted with so many challenges daily that remind us of how big this epidemic is. We're talking about 32 million people infected, only 40% of whom have access to antiretroviral therapy, meaning that without access, large numbers of people continue to die each and every day. We continue to see, unfortunately, large numbers of people infected, including in parts of the world where we have robust healthcare systems. And so the challenge is ever present. The fear of failure is always present, but reminding oneself on a daily or almost daily basis of the value of the work that we're doing and how it is having an impact on such significant numbers of people, is one way in which I try to put fear into context, perspective, and transition it from becoming a barrier to action to a way of leveraging myself for action.
Can you share with us a resource that might help us in our own journeys and overcoming our own fears today?
So, among the resources that I utilize to overcome fear are a series of books related to leading a mission driven life. And as important, religious, other religious oriented books that reinforce the notion that to save one life is to save the world. Its original context was in the Jewish Talmud, but certainly in the Christian Bible, it is expressed in quite a number of different books, including Colossians. So I would reference those as resources.
Are you ready for the speed run?
Sure,
What individual, fiction or real, has made the most impact on your life?
Don Quixote,
And if you could instantly change one thing in the world, what would it be?
greed.
What's your biggest weakness?
I talk too much.
Your biggest strength?
I love too much.
What's your idea of a vacation?
A beach, even though I don't like sand.
And what is your favorite sound?
Church bells.
Do you have any parting advice for us today, Dr. Zuniga?
My parting advice is not to allow yourself to be paralyzed by fear. We are each placed on this planet to do something special. It may be as small as simply loving someone and as great as saving the world from disease, poverty, social isolation, and all the ills that create havoc on our planet. And so while we can leverage fear, put it in context, and allow it to strengthen our resolve to do something meaningful with our lives, cannot allow ourselves to be paralyzed.
That's excellent advice indeed. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're a very busy guy and we're catching you in between trips, so I really do appreciate you taking the time today.
Well, I appreciate your inviting me. I think this is very important work, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.